This was a sad movie about journalism. What's up, everybody? So this is my review of Devil Wears Prada 2, and it has all the main ingredients from the previous Devil Wears Prada movie that came out literally 20 years ago. We got Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, Emily Blunt, Stanley Tucci, directed by David Frankel. And so it's got a lot of the pieces that really made this movie work the first time around. This movie still works. There's a lot of really, really great things I like about this movie. You know, Meryl Streep always brings it. She's always amazing in anything she does. You know, the dynamic between the characters and chemistry is still there. Stanley Tucci just, puts in an awesome performance just like he always does. And not just that the characters are a little bit different, but you see that the world that they are operating in has changed. And so that is a little bit more of center stage than the characters were and how they interact with each other as they were in the first one. You know, in the first one, Anne Hathaway's character and the audience are kind of in the same boat as far as we're dropped in this world, and then it's up to us to sink or swim and figure out how all of this is going to turn out. Whereas now we're familiar with the world as far as the responsibilities of all of these people in this, runway fashion magazine world. But at the same time, now that the world has changed, and now that, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that a lot of people went into the fashion industry after watching the first one because so much time has gone by. And while the first one was kind of a satirical and biting critique of the fashion world, the book that the movie was based off of was basically written by a disgruntled former employee of one of these fashion magazines. And so, now that, okay, let's get the band back together, basically, it's more cute and it doesn't have that edginess that the first one did, it's especially with the character of Miranda, where, she would say these incredibly biting and harsh things to people. And when you watch the first one, you're kind of taken aback, like, oh my God, I can't believe somebody's talking like that to somebody else. Now it's like, oh, that's so nice. Oh, look, that's just Miranda being Miranda, kind of thing. And so that's what it feels like to me. It feels a little bit more sanitized than it does, this really kind of hard-edged critique of this kind of fashion meets corporate world that is very cutthroat and competitive. But having said that, the dynamic of all the four major principals, is still there. It's like, getting together with old friends. And so it's nice to see that that they can recapture the magic in that way. But at the same time, because things have changed so much, and now Miranda has a assistant that literally kind of nudges her anytime she says something that's off color. Even though Miranda says it anyways, she doesn't really care. But she's not, like I said, she's not seen as that person that strikes really fear or intimidation. It's just like that old grandma that you used to be scared of as a child, but now as an adult, you kind of accept her and embrace her for the way that, she just treats people. Oh, it is the way it is. So I kind of missed that part of it. And that just has a lot to do with kind of the state of journalism, really, because, nobody really pays attention to fashion magazines the way they did 20 years ago. Even newspapers themselves. I mean, at the end of the first one, Anne Hathaway's character begins work at a traditional newspaper, being a real journalist. And now that in this one, the newspaper has closed down. And that's one of the ways in which she comes back into the world of Runway Magazine. And so logically things make sense, so okay, but there's just a feeling of it, that it just doesn't sit in the same way as the first one. But I did appreciate that they weren't trying to, do a rehash. It's like, all right, let's do beat by beat everything that happened in the first one, but in a modern context. It's not how they did this. So I like that. It's just that it didn't change enough for the characters themselves to still have, what made them appealing to begin with. Because now it's like sensibilities have changed, and so maybe if somebody new watches it, okay, they might feel the same way we felt watching the first one, but as seasoned viewers of the first one, it doesn't really work. It doesn't land in the same way. Aside from that, it is a great movie, very, very well made, very well acted. The sets and the costumes, everything looks great. This reminds me of like a big movie that used to be made, so it doesn't feel like a movie that is like, oh, let's just dump it on streaming. This looks like a movie theater kind of movie, which I really, really appreciated. Anyways, those are my thoughts. What about you guys? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash that like button, click subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.